moves 365. It's for optimizing your movement patterns. All of the exercises are carefully selected because they're going to create a training stimulus that will help to optimize your squat, your lunge, your push pattern, everything else. But it requires very little equipment, so it can be done just about anywhere. It's a Tabata workout, which means you're going to be doing the exercises for 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, alternating that work-rest interval for 4 minutes per exercise. We're going to go through the exercises one at a time. It's best to use some sort of a timer that can audibly ring you through the work and rest intervals. So you just set it to go off every 20 seconds, then every 10 seconds, 20 on, 10 off. We're going to start off with the overhead sit-down squat exercise. So for this one here, you'd be standing with the back of your legs against a bench or chair like this. Feet shoulder width apart. You'd have your elbows locked out, arms overhead in a Y. Okay, you're going to push your hips back and then bend at the knees to squat down, then stand up tall and repeat. Just to give you an alternative view here, once again, elbows locked out. Push your hips back, sit down, stand up, and repeat. This is going to work a lot of your upper back muscles. Just maintaining this locked out Y position with the arms is going to force you to straighten up that spine, and it's going to work a lot of your shoulder stabilizers. It takes you out of that slumped posture. There are ways to progress this exercise. One way is to take a closed loop mini band, such as the one I have here, okay? And you could step through it and pull it up to your knees. Then, as you do the movement, you're pushing your knees out the whole time. That's going to bring into play the glute medius and minimus muscles, the abductors of the pelvis. So they're going to just help to optimize hip alignment. A further progression you could do is to take some light dumbbells and hold them up overhead, just like so. It doesn't take much weight there to really challenge the muscles. The next exercise we're going to go on to is a tightrope lunge. So we're going to be in a tightrope position, which means that your feet have to be in line like this, okay? As if you're standing on a tightrope. So you're going to be in a kneeling lunge position. You're going to have one knee down and one knee up in front, almost like you're proposing marriage or being knighted. The back of the heel on the front leg should be touching the knee of the down leg. And once again, you're in a line. The back ankle should be flexed with toes tucked under. Now, I recommend that you do this beside a bench or a wall so you can lean into it for balance as necessary. So from the front, I look like this, and you always want to start at the bottom, okay? Now you're going to have your arms up straight overhead with your palms facing each other, and you're going to stand tall, lunge back down, and repeat. Now there are a number of progressions you can use here. One is to have your front foot elevated on a yoga block, a foam brick like this. That will definitely increase the challenge of the exercise. So just like this, and then I'm all the way up, all the way down. A further progression I could do is eyes closed. Now when you go eyes closed, be prepared. That's a very big jump, because the minute you remove visual anticipation, your stabilizers have to work harder. A lot of times your brain is trying to trick the system. It's trying to anticipate what stabilizers are going to be needed when. When you take away vision, all of a sudden they're forced to work harder. They don't get any help from the eyes. So you're going to notice a big difference there. A final progression would be to do any variation in the tightrope lunge, holding weights overhead, just like this, okay? And then all the way up, all the way back down, and repeat. That is going to really help you to own the lunge movement pattern. Because if you can do it from that tightrope position, nice and tight like that, it requires more stability. So any other lunge variations are going to be more manageable for you if you train that variation of the lunge. The next exercise we're going to do is for the pull pattern. And it's largely to realign posture. Now for this one here, you can use some sort of an elastic band or tube. I'm just going to use this exercise tube right here. And what I do is, you got to tighten them up. So you have to kind of loop it around your mid palm a few times till you get it to about shoulder width apart, okay? Just like that. Then you just keep your chest up and out, and you want to initiate the movement from the shoulder blades. Squeeze the shoulder blades together, then pull the arms apart, bring them back out in front, and repeat. So the exercise is just pulling the bands apart, okay? And if you want to progress this, you can combine it with a sit-down squat. Now, before we did a neutral squat with feet shoulder width apart, so here you could either go super wide or super narrow is most challenging. So I've got the tubes out in front, I sit down, I stand up, I pull apart. Sit down, stand up, pull apart. That progression will just help you burn more calories. Now, let's imagine that you don't have this band or tube, you're traveling, and you still want to get this workout in. An alternative you can do is the wall slides. So for wall slides, I want you to imagine that my back is against a wall, and I'm in a stick 'em up position. I want to magnetize the back of my body against that wall, so everything's touching the wall. And then I go from this, almost, my arms are pointing up like the top of the letter H, and then I go to a V. H to V. Pushing the back of my arms into the wall. So just to give you a little bit of an example, it would look like this, wall slides. And if you're doing a wall slide, you're going to be contracting those upper back muscles together. That will help to straighten out slump forward posture, which can help you to set the foundation for good pulling motions in the gym, in sport, and in life. The next exercise we're going to be going on to is spine lock drinking birds. So for the spine lock position, I usually put one hand on the front of the abdomen, one hand on the low back. That way I'm locking my low back in position and I'm monitoring it for movement. The reason is that many people, instead of using their hips for the hinge, they will hinge from the low back. And they'll do a motion, a bend motion, using the lower spine as a functional hinge. And that's one of the most risky, faulty movement patterns you can have in your body, is to use the low back as a functional hip or to use it to hinge. So this is to clean up that potential movement pattern. So you have one hand on the low back, one hand on the front of the abs. I want you to stand next to a bench or a wall so you can lean sideways into it if you need to. So for example, if I'm over here, I could just lean onto the wall if I need to. And sometimes when people aren't very good at this exercise, I have them lean into the wall the whole time. Okay? Kind of like training wheels until you're ready to progress off. So, standing like so, you go until your torso is almost horizontal. You hold, then you stand up tall and repeat. Hold, stand up tall and repeat. Keeping your hips square to front, you don't want to turn them around. Okay? Now, progressions here, doing it in your sock feet is preferred because you wake up your foot and ankle stabilizers a little bit more than doing this in shoes. I'm already in my sock feet. Another progression is to then put your arms down by your sides with your palms forward, like this. And keep your arms extended behind you so you're tensioning your upper back muscles, okay? That would be a progression there. At this point, it's assumed that you have a good natural sense of your lower spine and that you know that you're not actually bending and flexing it forward. A further progression is to have your hands like this and extend the arms out in front as you bend forward. So it would look like this. Extending the arms out in front does create a longer lever arm to challenge you more. So those are some variations and progressions that you can mix in to find a suitable level of challenge for you on this movement pattern. But it will help to optimize the bend movement pattern. Now the next movement pattern we're going to work on is the push. Largely the problem with the push is that people have disassociated the push muscles from core and trunk stability. So we want to get them talking, the trunk stabilizers and the push muscles, to help optimize that push pattern. One of the ways to do that is through some variation of an inclined push-up. I usually start people off with a higher ledge, like a counter or a firm table. The higher the incline, the easier it is for the upper body, okay? So I would use perhaps this mini fridge here. I'd have my hands on it, arms straight, and I'm on the balls of my feet with my heels up. Now I bend the elbows down and back at a 45-degree angle to bring my chest to the surface. From the bottom I go up an inch, back down, then all the way up. So I'm doing a little bit of a pump at the bottom of every repetition. Now, if you want to, you can eventually progress that to doing something like using an inclined bench here. Once again, it's still an incline, so I'm getting my trunk stability and push muscles to be associated, but I could do it from an incline like this. Other variations can include push-ups where you have your hands on a barbell, or push-ups on a TRX or suspended handles. Okay, because that's all going to call on the trunk stabilizers to work as teammates with the push muscles to help optimize the push pattern. Because as has been said many times before, you can't fire a cannon from a canoe. So if you're always working your push muscles in isolation, then you don't really have that solid foundation to generate force. And that's where we want to be doing exercises like this to build that solid foundation for the push muscles. Now the next one we're going to be doing is semi-squat sidestepping. Now for this one here, you press your palms together firmly like that. When you do that, that does increase core activation. You get into a semi-squat position, you stay low, and you just sidestep like this. Now, if you have a bit of a runway, you can take more steps before you reverse your direction. In general, I just tell people work with what you have. And what we're going to be doing here is this is a frontal plane movement, which helps to normalize lateral tension in the body. Because lateral misalignments, one shoulder high, one hip high, so on and so forth, will screw up all of your movement patterns because now you're firing from a misaligned position. So we want to prioritize exercises like this. As a progression here, you could take a looped elastic mini band. Now, I can loop it through the middle of my feet, is going to give me the most activation. If I loop it through the middle of my feet, just like this, okay? The only problem is you're likely to snap your mini bands sooner because the friction will fray the elastic material. So you just have to do a cost-benefit analysis if that's the variation you want to do. Most of the time I just loop it around the ankle like this, and if that mini band is too difficult, you can pull it up to the knees and that would make it a little bit easier. Sometimes what I'll do is almost like a triple drop set. I'll start with it around the feet, we go to fatigue, then we move it up to the ankles, then we move it up to the knees, and then afterwards somebody has to take you out on a stretcher. So that's a great exercise if you need to get those muscles firing. As a further progression, you can take a dumbbell if you have access to one, and you can hold it in a goblet position like this, cupping the upper end plate like you're cupping the upper basin of a wine glass or goblet. Okay, and if you don't have something like this, you can just hold a bag of groceries or something in front and just do this variation here. When you're doing this, holding the dumbbell in front, it forces the core cylinder to stabilize, to keep you in that upright position, which is optimal for all of our movement patterns, to have very good core stability. Now the final exercise is wall lean street beggars. A lot of people might be thinking, why is this mixed in with a workout that's designed to optimize movement patterns? And the truth is that over 30,000 hours one-on-one on the front lines with clients optimizing movement patterns, I found that head forward posture can be a big contributor to preventing us from getting results as quickly as we can. Because what happens is all of the nerves, the whole spinal cord is coming out here. So if you have a kink in the hose at the level of the neck, then it can impair the circuitry and the electrical flow to the rest of the body. Head forward posture can impair the potential of the rest of your body below. So you want to always do something to help optimize that. Now for this one here, you're going to have the back of your head against the wall, okay? You walk your feet forward, and you're going to have your feet pointing up, okay? Not sure if you can see it there, but my feet are pointing up like that, so I'm on my heels. And I'm holding myself up with the back of my head. If the wall wasn't there, I would fall backwards. My only points of contact right now are my heels on the floor and the back of my head on the wall. There's a gap here between my shoulders and the wall. From this posture here, I would just bring my arms, externally rotate them out to the sides, squeezing the shoulder blades together like I'm begging for money. I would hold this for 20 seconds, then on the 10-second break, I rest my back on the wall, then I push my back off the wall, and I go again for another 20 seconds. It's important that on the rest intervals, you just do this gently, because otherwise it can be too difficult for you to set up again into position if you're only getting a 10-second rest interval. Now with this motion, I could progress it by taking a band like this, any sort of elastic band, and once again you're looping it around the middle of your palms, okay? And I could just pull the band apart with a low elbow external rotation, squeezing the upper back muscles, and that helps us to work even more postural muscles with that there. So, that would conclude Badger Moves 365. It's a great workout to do a couple times a week. You may want to alternate this with some other workout that has complementary movements, not repeating the same movements exactly. You could do it up to 3 times a week is fine, and it's going to help grease the groove for optimal anatomical movement patterns. Squat, lunge, push, pull, bend. All of these movements will be optimized by doing a workout like this. It's great to do an initial movement screen test, follow this program with another complementary workout for about 4 weeks, and then repeat the movement screen test. In my experience, I can't recall a time we didn't get very gratifying and fulfilling levels of improvement following this workout. It should help you move better, so you can live better, you can perform better, you can prevent aches and pains once everything's stacked properly. Badger Moves 365, it's there to help you be at your best 365 days a year.